Hey YouTube, today I'm going to be explaining exactly why did I name my YouTube channel Cuban Hands. We're going to be talking about Cuba and we're going to be talking some things about Cuba. Let's just say that. Now if you never went to Cuba, you never really heard about Cuba, you never really get to know Cuba that well. Cuba has two sides, let's say that. Cuba has a beautiful side and a bad side, because I know some people will say, oh, Cuba is very beautiful, Cuba is very beautiful, and then the next people are going to say Cuba is very horrible, Cuba is very horrible. There's two sides of Cuba, right? I'm going to be showing you, number one, the terrible side of Cuba, just to make you know that I'm not really trying to make Cuba look real, or really like the dream world that you always wanted. I'm going to show Cuba how it is. I love Cuba. I'm not saying that Cuba is not a beautiful place, but Cuba is sometimes the place that you won't really want to be in. But I mean, there's a beautiful place in Cuba. There are many beautiful places in Cuba that you could have fun. Beaches. Cuba is very beautiful, but there's some places in Cuba that really don't make Cuba look that attractive, and I don't understand why those are the pictures that mostly be uploaded, so we really don't really get to see the bright side of Cuba. So I'm going to show you some pictures of the dark side of Cuba, and I'm going to show you some pictures of the nice side of Cuba, so you could really know which one you're dealing with. Now, I'm not trying to say that Cuba ain't a very nice place, and just if you're watching this next picture, it's going to be very horrible. That's a very, very, very horrible picture, but it is reality. Well, that's the most popular side of Cuba, but let's see the real popular side of Cuba now. And by popular side of Cuba, I don't mean like famous. I mean the part of Cuba that makes Cuba Cuba. Those old time cars makes it look Cuba. The people makes it look like Cuba. That is Cuba, That's Cuba. So now you might be asking yourself, is Cuba is the place that I want to go to visit? Is Cuba the place that I want to spend some time in? Is Cuba a place that is good for my family to go and visit? Well, I'm gonna say Cuba is a place where you can go and visit with your family. Cuba is a very beautiful place, exactly. But those nasty places that you saw there, especially the last picture, that was very gross. They're more like into the country. If you go into the country, it's gonna be more like that. Not all the houses are like that. Just let's say 1 out of 10 million houses are like that. I'm gonna say 10 out of 10 million, right? But the country, I like the country because the country is more like you don't really have so much internet, you don't have a computer, you don't have a phone, it's like more outside. You get to know the outside world better. So I sometimes prefer the country. I like to go down to the country, Oriente, Santiago de Cuba. I like those type of places. Bayamo, I like those type of places because they are very social. They're social places, which I really like to go there. So is Cuba a bad place or a good place? Cuba is a very beautiful place. It's a very beautiful place. But some people say, let's say if I say to you, go to Africa. Africa is a very beautiful place. Well, Africa is a very beautiful place. South Africa is actually a very beautiful place. If you don't know that, this is South Africa. One of the countries most mistaken says it's poor, but no, this is South Africa. But you see, we people like to just critique the worst places of Africa. Sometimes we don't critique, or let's say we don't look at the beautiful places of Africa. But Africa is a very nice place. I have to say, Africa is a very nice place. If there's a channel out there called African Hands, check that out. check that out. So yeah, Cuba is a very nice place. You should go and visit Cuba one point of your life. Cuba is a very nice place, and I'm telling you, and I'm only my age. I'm not gonna say my age, but it's a very beautiful place. You should very go to Cuba. So why did I name my channel Cuban Hands? Why did I name my channel Cuban Hands? Okay, let's get into some of details. Why did I name my channel Cuban Hands? Well, I named my channel Cuban Hands because I am from Cuba, and that's the only name of a channel that I actually came up with, because almost all of them that I had in plan were already taken from somebody. So I just used Cuban Hands because I thought Cuban Hands was a very nice, beautiful name to use. So I just used a Cuban Hands, because if I was going to talk about Cuba in one point, and if you are a Cuban and you're listening to this, suscríbete a mi canal ahora mismo, porque somos cubanos, ¿verdad? Y tenemos que ayudar a la patria cubana. Entonces suscríbete ahora mismo. Dale, ¿qué estás esperando?